topic a lot of you have been clamoring for since I brought it up a couple weeks ago and hinted at it, and that is how to make the perfect chatterbait. You know, when I say perfect, disclaimer, it's what's perfect for me. I've spent a lot of years trying to get this exactly how I want it. I've gone from the store-bought ones, the Z-Man chatterbaits, all different types and brands. I know they're all different. To me, this is what's perfect. And when I say perfect, I mean I can fish it the most effectively through the type of cover I like to throw these around. And most importantly, I catch more fish on them than anything else. So I'm going to take you through the process of making these from scratch. You can actually save yourself a ton of money as well. You know, before we go any further, go down there, hit that subscribe button, punch that MF for me if you like these tackle making type videos. There'll be plenty more to come in the future. Let's get into what we need to make these from scratch. Alright, so here's everything you're going to need to make these chatterbaits from scratch. First off, once again, the very high-tech 3 pieces of wood with holes in it. We'll need that in just a second. I'm going to put that to the side. Obviously, you know you're going to need jig heads, and this is the most important part to getting it just right. This is what I had to tinker with the most to get the action just how I wanted it. I really like these heads like this. The 6th Sense swim jig head or a poison tail head. You know, it's like a 30-degree hook angle with that bait fish style head. Anything like this will work. Just for the sake of the video, I'm going to be using the poison tail head because I'm getting a little low on inventory on these 6th Sense heads, and I'm going to show you why you're going to need multiple here in a little bit. So I buy these poison tail heads unpainted, super high quality hook in these, but you really want that stout, ultra sharp, pointed hook for these. Obviously, you're going to need a blade. I get these on barlowstackle.com. I think you might be able to get them on fishingskirts.com now. If you're making your own skirts, you're going to need a skirt making tool. Obviously, you're going to need skirts. I keep it simple. I like 3 different color schemes when I'm throwing chatterbaits. I'll throw a white or a white and chartreuse anytime the water is muddy or I'm around a lot of shad, a green pumpkin anytime I'm around gills or you just want a more natural presentation, and a black and blue. You know, for whatever reason in the muddy water, a lot of times they'll eat the black and blue better than they'll eat the white and chartreuse, but I keep it simple with those 3 colors. If you buy your heads unpainted or you pour them yourself, you know, I'll stop it right there. I do have a jig making tutorial if you haven't watched it, so go down, I'll leave a link to how to pour your own jigs. So if you do have the poison tail mold or any other 30-degree line tie type, like the type of jig head I was just talking about, go down, hit that link, and I'll show you how to pour your own jig heads. Obviously, you're going to need powder paint if your jig heads are unpainted. That's where the torch comes in for the powder paint. Very critical piece of equipment right here, and you'll see in a second. I don't even know where these came from, but they're really wide grip pliers, wide on the end. And for whatever reason, that gives us more leverage to open up that hook eye, which is very important. So I'm sure you can go any type of hardware store and get some nice wide ones like these. That's what's worked best for me. Again, if you have unpainted poison tail type jig heads like these, you need eyes. I really like these eyes from 6th Sense lures. Some with a little bit of chartreuse or chartreuse and red. Really makes it stand out. You'll see that in a little bit. And we're going to need a drill with a drill bit. I think this is a 7/64. We're going to show you again how that works and why that's necessary. Of course, super glue to put those eyes in. They have adhesive on the back, but that is not going to hold them, especially when you got that blade bang against the head. Super glue, gel super glue is super important to hold those eyes on for a long period of time. Let's start making them. Alright, step number 1. First thing before you ever get started with anything, go set that oven 300 degrees. Just like we did in our jig making videos, we're going to have it at 300 degrees, and that's to cure the powder paint. So go do that now before you get started. Step number 2, we're going to go ahead and powder paint these jig heads. So, like we did previously, so we're going to get that torch lit and then take it all the way down as low as it will go. And we're going to paint 4 or 5 of these jig heads, and you'll see why in a moment. We're probably going to wreck 3 or 4 of them before we get one just right. So first thing we're going to do, like we did with the jig heads, we're just going to get them a little bit hot on both sides. Dip them in. And that was like perfection. Beautiful start. I'm going to keep this next to me because you won't be able to see my ugly face otherwise. Hang those in there just like that. And they will be ready to be cured. Let me do these other ones real quick. Alright, so the jig heads are done. We got 4 of them painted. Now, as you can tell with the green pumpkin powder paint, obviously we're going to be making that green pumpkin color Chatterbait. I'm sorry I didn't explain that better to start off, but on 100% of my green pumpkin Chatterbaits, I like to paint the blade green pumpkin as well. Alright, so first step before you even powder paint the blade, and you can do it after you powder paint the blade as well, but it's easier to do before, we're going to open up that hole a little bit, just a little bit, with that little tiny drill bit, just so it has more freedom of movement with that hook wire when we connect it to the jig head. So we're going to put this in there, and I like to just kind of, I work it around. We might actually, no, that's working pretty well actually. Alright, perfect. So, as you can see, maybe you can, I don't know if that's focusing in there, we've made the hole just a little bit bigger, but it didn't compromise the integrity of the blade where that connects. I've never, ever, ever had one of these break. You know, I have had a lot of the Z-Man stuff break. That's another reason why I feel like this is a superior product. A lot of the components, and if you've used them a lot on the Z-Man product, just don't get the job done. They're not high quality. This is the most high quality hook blade combination I feel like you can have. Alright, so now that we got this drilled out, we're going to powder coat the blade. So we're just going to be careful not to heat it up too much. We're just going to do a little bit at a time, because if you get too much it will burn. This actually, the metal gets a lot hotter than like a jig head or something does. So you want to get it just hot enough that it'll coat that blade. And it looks like we got her just right that time. So we're going to give it just a second for that to dry. Doesn't take long at all. And then we're going to heat it up just real quick again on the other side. And I think we did it right there actually. And just like the jig heads, we're just going to hang that blade right off there to be powder coated right on next to them. I'm going to take these, get them put in the oven for 20 minutes is how long I like to cure them for. I think that's plenty of time, and I'll be right back. Alright, while those guys are cooking, we're just going to really quick make a jig skirt. Same as we made them in the how to make a jig video, but again, I don't like to go crazy with colors on this. I'm making a green pumpkin one, so all I'm going to do is like some green pumpkin barbed wire and a little bit of green pumpkin blue flash. I think just a little bit of that glimmer from the blue flash adds a little extra element to it. I think it adds a little bit more dimension to the bait when it's moving so quickly and shimmying through the water. So we're going to make one of those really quick. Alright, boom, there's our super fancy green pumpkin jig skirt. Jig should be done any minute. Alright, jigs are done, the oven's going off, we're going to go grab those right now and get to making our jig heads. Alright, sweet, here we go, they ended up great. We're going to go ahead and get to making these jig heads. Once again, this is super difficult to open up these jig heads without breaking the hook off. So we're going to need these really wide pliers for whatever reason. Again, that's what I've found to be the best. I'm going to open up that jig head. Usually you have one opportunity to do it. Make sure if this breaks, you're holding the hook so it's not going to go into your finger. Also very important. So when you grab onto it, you're not going to want to squeeze super, super hard with these. You're going to, and maybe that's why these work, because they do have a nice gap in them already because they're old pieces of garbage. But we're going to hold it just enough, so we got a hold of that head, and you're going to want to twist it. And you're going to want to twist it just enough so that opens up and you can put that chatterbait head. I think we're very, very close. I might have to clear a little bit of the lead out of the way as we go. Boom, I think that did the trick. Alright, so as you can see, we're sideways with a little bit of a hook opening right there. Just enough to sneak that blade in. So we're going to do everything we can without opening it up more. Boom, there we go. Super easy. So again, we only have one opportunity to open this up and close it without compromising the integrity of that hook eye so much that it's going to break off when you're fighting a fish or snag or whatever. And see, we broke it already. Attempt number 2. Alright, so once again, we got her in. We'll see if we can bend it back this time. Nice and easy without breaking it. We did it. We finally got it. We got the head on there. We got it bent back on. Super, super strong. You're not going to be able to break this off. No fish, unless you're fishing for, I don't know, peacocks might be able to break it off or something. But there we go. And a very, very important part of this is making sure where it connects is perfectly straight. And this one might take a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of on the water tweaking to make it just right, but it has to be perfectly straight on that jig head or it will want to roll up on its side. We got something else we're going to do to alleviate that though in just a second. Alright, so next step is to add a snap. I think I forgot to add this part when we talked about what you need to make these things, but this is looks like a 20-pound snap, so that's going to be plenty strong enough for any type of bass, but it's not too heavy. So when you put it on there, you want to make sure you have that flat side that this isn't going to hook into goes towards the top, because that's the side that's going to be rubbing against the blade, and so you don't want the part where it snaps in rubbing against the blade or it'll throw off the action completely. So when you're done, you're going to want it just like that. Hopefully you can see that. I'm really liking the way this looks. It's got that nice, since we opened up that hole, it's got that nice side-to-side movement. It's going to have a lot of action. Alright, next step, before we go ahead and put that skirt on, one of the last steps, we're going to add these little tiny eyes. I'm going to add the ones with a little bit of red on them. I like chartreuse and red whenever I can get away with it. When you guys make these and you're using them in any color of water, especially with a little bit of stain in it, these red and yellow eyes stand out so much. I don't know if it makes a big difference in fish key in on that, but it's something that really sets the bait off, especially when it's like a plain green pumpkin like this. It's a confidence deal. Alright, so we got our eyes super glued on there. They're super pretty. Last step is to add the skirt. So like we do with our jigs, we're going to take it a little bit, maybe like a 1/4 inch off center. Longer end goes on first. I like the flash on the belly because bluegills have a bluer belly to them. I don't think that actually matters, but that's what I like to do. Slide it up on there. Boom. Perfection. Alright, so one more tip to get this just right. We're going to bend the blade back. We're going to go about a 1/4 inch down on the blade and just barely bend it back. This will keep it from wanting to roll over much. So it'll track super straight, and you can do this before you add the hook on and everything. But just a little tiny bend. If you notice, the regular chatterbait has that on it too. But that will help it track a lot straighter as we use it. Alright, so now that we got this guy all finished up and made, let's get into the system of why I feel this is the perfect chatterbait. Alright, so through my trial and error, I've tried all different types of heads, blades, split ring combinations. I tried flat eye ones where the eye was perpendicular to the hook, opposite of this one with one split ring. Didn't come through grass well. I've tried ones with a inline eye just like this, and I've added 2 split rings to them. Super wide hunting action looked really cool, but it didn't come through cover at all, didn't come through grass at all, and that's super important with the chatterbait to get a reaction strike, is ripping it out of that grass, and it's like the favorite type of cover I throw it around. No, I tried recessed eye, inline eyes like this, recessed eye with like an archy head just like the chatterbait. Could never get it to work right. It would foul up too much. It just wasn't consistent with what I wanted. And then I came across this poison tail type. I actually discovered it with the 6 Sense swim jig head. That's a perfect head for this and a very high quality hook as well. But this 30-degree line eye, for whatever reason, the water passes over it. It's keel weighted just right. It has that perfect action. It comes through cover extremely well. And so here's how it's different for me than the Z-Man chatterbait. I know people have caught zillions of fish on the chatterbait, and that has like a super tight, vibrating type action, super straight line, very consistent bait. The only problem is, as we talked about before, the components on it are garbage. Broken a lot of hooks, split rings where it connects to the head. I know a lot of people have too, and there's different models, I realize that. But I've had problems with more than one type of model with the Z-Man ones, so I wanted to make a higher quality bait. Back to the action. So Z-Man's got that really tight shimming one. You can make them yourself with several split rings and it'll be super wide and hunt. This is a happy medium for me. So this vibrates tightly like the Z-Man one, but it thumps a little bit harder. To me, this has that perfect combination of vibration, hunting, thump, and it comes through cover. So I can reel this in a straight line, a little bit wider action than a regular chatterbait, but when I pop that rod tip, it shoots off to the side, one way or the other, and that's perfection for me. So when I'm reeling this in and I bump a stump, or if I rip it out of grass, it's going to shoot one way or shoot to the other side or do both. And that's perfect to me, but at the same time it's not super wide to where it gets snagged every single time you pull it over a piece of cover. That's why I've landed on this. And obviously with that super high quality hook, you're going to get a ton of your bites to the boat. Super important with these. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go hit that subscribe button to see more of these tackle tip and tackle making type videos. Go down and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. And if you have any other tips or things you like to do with the chatterbait I didn't touch on. As you watch this, I'm potentially down in Missouri going to a little bit of Ozark Lake fishing this weekend. Very excited for that. Something different to get away from Nebraska and it's super cold weather, although it is going to be in the 30s down there and snowing as well. Should make for some interesting footage. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. Peace.